Welcome to another segment of Farm Show TV. We are here on location at Black Fox Farms and Distillery, and I am joined by co-owners Barb, Stephanish and Cody, and her husband John Cody. Thank you so much for hosting us today.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah. So I really want to start with the name. As you drive into your property, it's absolutely beautiful, and the lanes are marked by this beautiful, curious black fox that decorates your logos. So do you have a story behind the name Black Fox Farms and Distillery?
We do. We had another farm to begin with, and when we were living on that farm, a black fox came to stay with us one summer. And where it's from the red fox family, it is just a genetic anomaly, and where a red fox has black tips on the ears and the tail, the black fox has white. And so it stayed around, and we felt that there are many fox out there, but a black fox is unique. And there are many farms out there, but Black Fox Farm and Distillery is unique. And so that's where we felt that the name really resonated with our new operation.
That's a really beautiful story. What I know about fox is that they're curious, and I am really curious to try these products. So at first glance, I did a little walk around, and what I have observed is that you are very busy. There is so much going on here. There's a lot of different projects, a lot of people coming and going, a lot of employees. I thought we should start with the distillery. So was it a love for whiskey and gin, or was it a desire to add value to your farm operation? Kind of walk us through how you ended up with a distillery as part of your farm operation.
It came down to wanting to share our passion for farming, and we wanted to connect with the consumer. So we used to be typical large-scale grain farmers that you would find in Saskatchewan, and we just wanted to do something different. We wanted to have a connection to the consumer. This is the way that we decided to do it, whether that's communicating or talking with our customers, or creating a product that's better than everything else because you know exactly what you're putting into the still when you start. That's how the partnership forms, because we're both very passionate about agriculture.
Okay, John, so tell me how many barrels I'm looking at here. I'm trying to do some quick math to determine how many ounces of whiskey I might be looking at.
So there's about 450.
It goes without saying, but these whiskey barrels are outside.
Yeah.
And we are in Saskatchewan. So my instinct would tell me we are somehow doing like ice whiskey or something. Tell me about the process here.
So what we're trying to do is let the environment that we raise our crops in, we're letting that environment affect the whiskey throughout its life. Every time you have these fluctuations of temperature, it actually is an aging cycle. So it's actually causing that whiskey to become smoother and the flavors more well developed, and it's working out really, really well for us.
I would think that Saskatchewan people would also feel that after a harsh winter, we've aged well and we're better for it.
So these are barrels of finished whiskey,
okay,
that are in wine casks. So this cask is a Marcella, comes from making Marcella wine, and it's got a malt whiskey in it, and it'll sit here basically until it's ready. It's already been here for about 5 years, but that's what's inside.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So I'm gonna let you smell that.
Is it like wine where you have to connoisseur it a little?
Yeah, well, it's all about the experience. So you should be able to, I always say you should be able to smell a dusty grain bin, or you should be able to smell that, you know, when the dust is hanging in the air at night, like during harvest time.
Yeah.
And it's almost hard to breathe because it's so thick. That's what a good whiskey should be.
Can I try it now?
Absolutely. So be careful. It is, in the barrel, it's about 60% alcohol, so it's quite strong.
So it's not a shot.
So it's not a shot. And just let it kind of swirl around your mouth and you'll get all those flavors.
It's divine. Really and truly.
Well, thank you.
I'm really proud to think that this came from this province. I could be a new whiskey drinker.
Yeah, no, whiskey is really interesting because it is absolutely dependent on the grain that you grow. Each part of it plays a role.
Do you find that the whiskey from this farm is unique in that capacity? Is most whiskey that we find on the shelf have a farmer growing the grains behind the bottle?
No, and that's the interesting part of whiskey. So in the wine industry, you would never even consider drinking a bottle of wine that just says, well, it's red wine. It's not, but you're always going to choose a wine from a region, from a specific kind of grapes, and nobody making wine would buy grain like we buy grain. So we buy grain here, and it's got to have a certain percentage of moisture, it's got to have a certain kind of dockage, and it's got to look a certain way. You'd never buy grapes like that. The guy making wine wants to know everything about it. The big distilling companies were never able to do that because they were so large. When they were procuring grain, it was coming from all over. So a lot of the Scotch in Scotland is made from barley from Alberta and Saskatchewan. So they have no choice on what's coming into their facility. Now these small distillers that are popping up all over the world, they're really all about being local. And then we have the further advantage of saying, well, we know what kind of crops to grow, and we know how to manage that crop so we can get more and more flavor out of it. So when we grow these grains, we can say, I want this particular variety because I know it tastes better, so I'm going to grow that. I'm going to fertilize it in a certain way because I know I can develop the flavors, and it's going to be nutritionally better for the yeast. And you can do all these really fun things as an agronomist in order to finally affect the whiskey. So this is all very new, and yet it's something that we're very familiar with in wine.
Really a fantastic story, John. This is beautiful. I see row upon row upon row of raspberries. And if there's anything I remember as a kid in the garden, it is picking raspberries. And admittedly, I ate more than actually went into the bucket. But how many raspberries does one farm need? And tell me about the connection with the raspberries and your distillery.
For sure. So what we do is we have 6 acres of raspberries here. And
that's a lot. That's
yes,
a lot of raspberries.
And we use it to make raspberry gin. That is the whole purpose of the raspberries.
Okay.
We have an older variety. It is called Boyne. And the reason we chose it is that there's a lot of newer varieties that the berries are sweeter and they're larger, but the Boyne raspberries have that real raspberry flavor, that flavor that that you grew up with as a kid.
Yeah.
And that's what we were after.
Very good. What you realize when you first step on your property are how many experiences that somebody who is visiting can have. They can come to the pumpkin patch. They can likely, in the middle season, come and see the raspberries. Do you get guests that pop in all throughout the year? What are the opportunities for people to come and visit you at the farm?
I think that's probably one of the things that surprised me most is the people that come back and again and again. And we have the pumpkin patch, but we have the cocktails on the patio, we have tastings, we do tours through the distillery. We do have our cut flowers where people can come and pick a bucket of cut flowers. And it's just a chance for them to come out and experience agriculture, which they sometimes don't get that opportunity. And we're close enough to the city that it's appealing for people to come on out.
You have a great website. How do people get in contact with you? How do they find out about you? Can you give us your details?
So most people will find us on the website, and we ask actually now that people do reserve a spot if they can, like through a booking system. Schedule yourself in, and the reason we do that is just to spread everybody out so that they get a really good experience is what we want them to do. And if they do show up without a booking, well, we're farmers. We can make do with what we've got, and so we welcome you as well.
Okay, so the last thing I need you to do is help me find a wagon because I need to take home some pumpkins. I think it's in every industry that is connected to agriculture.
Yeah.
There is, as you say, a preoccupation with weather because it feels like the third business partner.
It is.
You always have a business partner that is Mother Nature. Mm-hmm. Sometimes she's kind, sometimes she is really not kind, and we have to deal with what she delivers us.
We often talk about that Mother Nature can be a bit of a bag to work with, but yeah.
So Barb, this is a Haskap bush, which is, I think, fairly unique to Saskatchewan. So what are you using? The berries aren't here anymore, you've harvested them, but tell me more about the Haskap bush and the berry that comes from that.
The haskap are actually native to Japan, Siberia, and northern Canada. And we had a professor at the University of Saskatchewan who took a real interest in the berry, and his name is Dr. Bob Bors. He did a lot of plant breeding to make them really well suited for the prairies. So with haskap, the blossoms will withstand -7 degrees frost, which is pretty much unheard of. The berries come off early in the season, at the end of June, beginning of July, which makes them ahead of Saskatoons, ahead of sour cherries, ahead of raspberries and strawberries, anything else that we can grow here on the prairies. So as a fruit grower, it really expands your season. The last thing about them that's really unique is that they're very high in anthocyanins, so antioxidants. Some of the varieties will have up to 4 times what blueberries have, so they're poised to be a superfruit. And now we're just getting to the stage where you'll start seeing them in the grocery stores because we're at that level where we have sufficient production to start moving them into the retail space.
Because it isn't a common berry that people are used to hearing and
Exactly,
seeing.
yeah.
But what I'm hearing from you, so the haskap berry is in your gin,
Yes.
and the haskap berry has antioxidants. So what I'm deciphering is that the gin is very healthy, and you should drink it just for the antioxidants.
There you go.
Really.
Well, I would love to tell you that, but Health Canada gets a little hinky when we start making those claims.
I think for me, having walked around the whole property, you can see that each of these different experiences, each of these value-added entities that you have are connected in some way, whether it's it would be hard to make a connection between a pumpkin patch and a distillery, but truly, and the calendulum that you're growing in the raspberries, but there really is a connection. I think any visitor that comes to this farm will see that there's a connection to each one of these different experiences and value-added processes that you have.
I think that's what's really great about it is because we will take the mash, the leftover mash, and we'll use it as fertilizer and compost back on the flower fields, back on the raspberries and the haskap. And it's just that recycle that goes round and round. So, regenerative ag, this is it.
It honestly, Barb, it feels pretty luxurious to be walking around a farmyard and have sipping on a gin drink. Is this just because I'm with you, or is this allowed? Is this allowed on the farm property?
Actually, we've been very fortunate. The government has worked with us well to promote things like this, that you can take a cocktail out and go and enjoy the experience. And it really is a nice touch because then you can actually almost taste what you're seeing.
We've talked about different experiences you can have here, but I feel like I could bring the kids here, we could do the pumpkins, we could pick flowers, but I also feel like it might be a date night. You could come here, have a cocktail and wander around and just get a little getaway that's just outside of Saskatoon. It's really amazing what you have here.
Well, thank you. And we also, we've got a great team to help us pull off all of this and the other part of it is we do bring in live music with local musicians. So it is perfect date night.
That's amazing. You brought up the word team, and that reminds me of some conversations I've had with both you and your husband, John. And I understand that the two of you are alumni of Canada's Outstanding Young Farmers Program. And this is a program I know many of our viewers will have heard of, the OYF program. It exemplifies farmers in their profession. And it's one of the few programs that encourages young farmers to get involved and to experience their own success.
Yes.
And my husband and I were nominated many, many years ago, and I remember feeling so overwhelmed and nervous about the process. It's rare for a farmer to be asked to talk about their business and then to share, a portfolio of their business. Can you share with us your experience with the OYF program and encourage more young farmers to get involved in that?
Absolutely. OYF for us introduced us to a whole family of people that were on the leading edge of agriculture. You have your connections back home and you have your neighbors and your friends that are in the business. What OYF did for us is it broadened our outlook of agriculture. There were the farmers in Nova Scotia that had a greenhouse. We had the farmers in BC that had winery. We had bison farmers out of Ontario. There are so many different aspects to farming. And I think that was a real eye-opener for us. There were farms in Quebec that they bought and sold their farms every 5 years. And so, which is almost sacrilegious for us here in Saskatchewan.
Totally new way of looking at it.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It was a total new way of looking at it. And it's really neat to have that opportunity to speak with other farmers that are on the leading edge, that are willing to try things and are willing to share their experiences. Like they're willing to tell you, yes, I tried that, don't try it, it didn't work. But do this, or speak to this person, or, you know, yes, I can help you with that. It's been an amazing network to be involved in. And so I would really encourage anyone who, if you are one who's a prospect for outstanding young farmers, or if you know of someone who's a prospect for the OYF, to get involved. That initial process of filling out the form is daunting, but it's really worth it. The connections that we've made and the experiences and the learning that we've established has been second to none.
Very good. So if there are viewers that are hearing for the first time about the Outstanding Young Farmers program, any piece of advice you could give to them to help them get over that I feel too nervous or I feel too humble, I'm not sure if I should participate, any advice you could give to them to participate?
I would say jump into it wholeheartedly. It's, the process isn't that onerous. You know, they do ask for some information and they are going to vet it, but it is private. It's not like it's being spread around or anything like that. And it's also, it's just a chance to see how you're doing compared to others. You know, like maybe you are doing everything absolutely perfectly. Maybe you've got some room to grow. It works both ways.
The Outstanding Young Farmers program is geared towards young farmers between the ages of 18 and 39 that derive 2/3 of their income from their farm operation. It can be farmers, it can be farm couples, and we want to encourage anybody who's interested in this program to go online. You can go onto our website at canadasfarmshow.com. Thank you so much for tuning in to this segment of Farm Show TV. You can watch on canadasfarmshow.com this segment and all other episodes on demand, your time, your way. Barb, it has been such a pleasure to visit with you at Black Fox Farm and Distillery. My drink is empty, my truck has a big trunk, so I need to go make some purchases. I need a wagon for some pumpkins, and again, I can't thank you enough for spending the day with me.
It was our pleasure, and do come back anytime.
Thank you. Let's hit the gift shop.
Grain headquarters? That's Regina, home of Viterra, who partners with farmers across Canada and America and Mexico to market and move their crops to customers in 60 countries. We're headquarters for your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From Regina, we feed the world. We are growing the impossible.